Awesome. Hi, everybody. It's so good to be here with you. All right, I'm just waiting for Facebook here. Okay, there we go. Hey, everybody. Good to be here. This is the second time I'm gonna do this because Spirit guided me. I did drop an article about an hour or so ago, so you guys have that too. That way, if you guys want to reference the article, you can. If you want to reference the video, you can. If you want to reference both, you can. This isn't something I'm going to guarantee I'm going to do every time because it definitely takes a lot of time and energy. But I definitely have enjoyed it this time, and I'm really feeling this energy right now. I know a lot of you are too. A lot of you have reached out to me in the last couple of days to be like, "What's going on?" So I'm very excited to pop in and give you the lowdown. A lot of this is not going to be in the article. There's just so much stuff that's up right now. It's like, but in amazing ways. So, let's see. Chad's here, Megan's here, Teo's here. Good to see all of you. Thank you so much for being here. And Facebook, sometimes it doesn't show me who is here and who is not. So if you're here, hello, thank you for being here. And to those of you who are watching the replay, either of these places or on YouTube, cheers. Thanks for being here. All right, so let's dive right in. Either tomorrow or Thursday, depending on where you are located in the world, we are going to experience our very first eclipse in the sign of Scorpio in 12 sign astrology, or Libra in 13 sign astrology, in 9 years. This is normal. It's the normal eclipse cycle. Eclipses go between the same two signs for 18 months in a row before moving to the next two signs. Those signs are always completely opposite each other in the sky. Why? Because that's where the sun and moon would sit in eclipse, or where the earth and sun and moon would sit. So there would have to be those opposites. So this cycle, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to dive right into the 12 sign astrology first, because so much has been transmitting actually from 12 sign this time around that's been really, really, really strong for the collective. So I think the collective just really enjoys the kind of stigma around Scorpio energy, which of course I laugh about because I've got like half my chart in Scorpio. So I know this very well. It's like people are like, oh, okay, well, I'm sun in Aries and moon in Pisces and ascendant in Taurus. What are you, Rachel? And I'm like, oh, Scorpio, Scorpio, Scorpio. And they're like, yeah, but what are your moon ascendant? And I'm like, yeah, Scorpio, Scorpio, Scorpio. So I get that Scorpio energy so well. And I also know, like, my whole life, when I've said things like that, people are just like, oh, what? How do you do that? I'm going to tell you what, it is a lot. It is intense. Hey, Nicole, thanks for being here. But it's super fun, and I love it. I love Scorpio energy so much. Of course, this is my 12 sign chart, but regardless, there seems to be this like obsession around Scorpio energy in terms of like it being this very volatile, like deep, dark, like taboo energy, which, like, of course Scorpio does rule over the darkness, shadow work, taboo stuff. So that makes sense, but I think we look in our society for that taboo stuff to like make a big deal out of it, rather than looking at it as like, oh yeah, let's just destigmatize this and be good with it. So that's why I think this 12 sign astrology energy, hey Jenny, thanks for being here, is so prominently coming through my channel this time, because it's like the collective is really bringing this in, like, ooh, those nodes have shifted to be in Scorpio and Taurus, and like this is a big deal, right? Because Scorpio and like whatever. But what I will say about that is it is actually perfect timing. And I did put this in my article. So you guys can check that out if you're on Facebook. I dropped the link right here in the video description. If you're on Instagram, it's in the link in my bio. Hey, Isabel, thanks for being here. So yeah, I did talk about this there, but I feel like it needs to be talked about here too. That we have been on this trajectory of growth as a society. We have been in a collapse so that we can rebuild. A lot of what I have been pulling through my channel over the last week or two has been around this theme of expansion and contraction. And we have to experience these together, and not necessarily at the same time, but for every expansion, there's always going to be a contraction. For every contraction, there's always going to be an expansion. This is just the way of growth. It's how it works. And so as we are in this, and sometimes it is simultaneously, as we are in this societal contraction, right, where everything is just collapsing, like majorly collapsing, like freakishly collapsing, and has been for the last 2 years. As we are in this moment in time, this nodal shift is helping us to come more into that shedding moment and to be able to see where there's room for growth, right, with this Taurus energy in the North Node, which I'll talk about in a moment here. And where there's room for shedding, which we find with this Scorpio energy, and it's a lot of this full moon, which is going to be at just around 12:30 a.m. Eastern time on Thursday. So for those of you who are on Pacific time, it's going to be in the evening tomorrow. And I guess evening tomorrow for Eastern time folks too, it'll just be post midnight. So there's that too. Daytime for folks in Australia, etc. So I don't know where it's visible. I heard somebody ask me that just now. I don't know where we can see it. I didn't look up that information, so you guys can do that. You can just Google where can I see the lunar eclipse and you'll be able to find that info. So this Scorpio, so basically, I mean, I've talked about the nodes already. I talked about them in an article, I think like 3 articles this year, honestly, and the last live that I did 2 weeks ago. So if you're interested in that information, I highly suggest going and checking that out. doorwaytoself.com/blog and also youtube.com/c/doorwaytoself. So those are options. As far as the Scorpio energy goes, with this eclipse and what this south node is touching on. The south node being the place of, and for those of you who have not joined me before, I close my eyes a lot when I channel, so thank you for bearing with me there. The south node is the space where we are growing from. Okay, this is the stuff that we are learning to shed, learning to let go of. These are old paradigms that we are growing through. So as we experience this lunar eclipse tomorrow night, the moon being the sky object that rules over emotions, psychic ability, intuition, dream states, feminine energy, etc., so on and so forth. As we are moving through this lunar eclipse, we are looking at what we are letting go of, what we are leaving behind, what we can kind of parcel out from old paradigms to bring in newness. Scorpio specifically, as I sort of already started to speak to, rules over taboo, right? The world of taboo. So how can we look at the world of taboo as something that perhaps is not needing to be hidden anymore, and we can start to look at these taboo topics and destigmatize them and still like really relish in the taboo-ness of them, but you know, really bring them out and talk about them and explore them and appreciate that. Okay, there's that. One of those things, of course, is sex. Scorpio rules over a lot of sex. Scorpio loves its sexual activity. And the mystery of sex and understanding it and Really just playing in that realm, in that arena. Because of this, with this full moon and lunar eclipse in Scorpio, the first one in 9 years, a lot of stuff around sex is going to be coming up for folks. Now, this could look like, where did I hide from sex? Where have I hidden from sex in my life that I'm not wanting to face it, not wanting to engage with it, etc. This could look like an overindulgence with sex, which we actually see an intersection there with that 13 sign astrology. So I'll get to that in a moment. But basically, you might find your libido is skyrocketing right now. If that's you, especially with this being a full moon, right, which is correlated with a higher libido anyways, with you, so you might be experiencing that kind of skyrocketing libido where you just can't get enough. You can't get enough. So if that's you, know that that might be a great thing. That might be just like your breakthrough where you're like, yes, I can experience this. This is amazing. Can't get enough, whatever. It could also be a way of kind of tiring you out. If you're somebody who leans on sex a lot, if you're somebody who bypasses through sex, if you're somebody who works with sexual energy that's in a much lower vibrational frequency, this might be the point in time where you have your breaking point, where you have had so much sex or so much sexual energy or so much sexual activity or whatever that you just burn out. And you're like, I don't need this anymore, or I don't want this anymore. I can't do this anymore. So you might see that. The other thing that could be coming up with this sexual energy is a shedding of old sexual paradigms. Hey, Jordan, thanks for being here. So shedding of what sex should look like, did look like, might look like, and leaning more into like the feeling and like, what do you want? What are you into? What do you like? Etc. So that might be coming in strongly. Also shedding societal paradigms. Okay, porn said things should look like this, so I should enact them this way. So again, just kind of like feeling into yourself and what you want and what you need and what brings you pleasure. And if you're working with a partner or partners, then what brings them pleasure and where those things intersect. And also recognizing where there might be a lot of people pleasing going on. Scorpio tends to be a sign where there's a lot of this energy of like wanting to dive deep into other people's vulnerability, but then when it comes to like receiving, there might be some difficulty and some blocks around that. So that stuff might be coming up for you too, and not just in terms of sex or sexuality, but in general. Where are you somebody who holds space for other people as a defense mechanism so that other people don't see your vulnerability or other people aren't experiencing your trueness? Hey, Georgia, thanks for being here. Good to see you, love. So, yeah, where are you having trouble receiving? Where are you blocking off from receiving? Where are you specifically instating these kind of maybe unbeknownst to you, manipulative systems where you're automatically putting yourself in a space of hierarchical structure, where you are constantly the space holder and the other person isn't able, like you aren't able to receive their space holding. So it automatically puts you in this kind of place of upper echelon is the words that are coming through, which is interesting because that's not normally in my syntax. But anywho, so all of that stuff coming through with this full moon and eclipse in 12 sign astrology. Let me just tune in here and make sure there's nothing else I want to speak to. Yeah, also paradigms. Oh, yes. Also paradigms around mystery, around magic, the occult, all of these kind of like, again, taboo practices, right? How can we bring these to the light? How can we take them out of the shroud, out of the eclipse? How can we engage with them more? I think it's super, super, super potent that yesterday was Friday the 13th. I did think about coming on live yesterday, and I got this very direct message from Spirit that was like, nope, you don't want to engage in social media. You don't want to do it because you're going to see all of the things about, Friday the 13th. And then it's just going to like wig into your energy. And I was in a great space yesterday. So I was like, I'm not going to be messing with that. But what I want to speak to is, and I think I've spoken about this on a live before, but what I want to speak to is that Friday the 13th is something that, and I'm going to sound like ultra political or whatever right now, but the patriarchy actually instated that as like this negative thing. The patriarchy, the church, I'm not against religion, I'm not against the church, whatever, but the point is that old paradigms in the church instated that as an unlucky date, an unlucky auspicious time, okay? Reason being, Friday is actually Frigga's day, associated with the Norse goddess Frigg, Frigga, or Freya, depending, two different people, but it depends on where you look. So it's goddess, it's associated with goddess worship, so the divine feminine, okay? It's also the 13th. The number 13 is associated with the moon. We have 13 moon cycles in a calendar year. And so again, the moon is associated with the divine feminine in many cultures, this kind of, and also the menstrual cycle and etc. So there's this kind of dampening of like, the moon, no, bad, magic, bad, right? Okay, so we've got the goddess, we've got the moon. Also the number 13 in general is associated with the divine feminine, with goddess energy. And so there's just this complete gaslighting that's happening of like, Friday the 13th, this super, super, super divine feminine day is unlucky. Bad things are going to happen to you. Well, guess what? When we play in that energy from that mindset, the divine feminine rules over the void, rules over these spaces of the in-between where everything and nothing exist at the same time. And when we are automatically fearful, we are then calling in and bringing in that energy, okay? When we associate a day with an unlucky time, we are calling that in. A lot of people were freaking the F out yesterday because it was like solar eclipse, Mercury retrograde, Friday the 13th, and we're coming into another eclipse. Okay, so a lot of people were like, this is so bad. No. Let me tell you what. Eclipses help us to shed. Eclipses help us to illuminate things. Eclipses help us to grow. Eclipses are literally aligned with a growth cycle in the sky. That's what the nodes are. The south node is what we are growing away from and shedding and leaving behind and transmuting and etc. The north node is what we are growing towards. It is a growth cycle. This is why people absolutely despise eclipses, because people don't like change. We as humans like things to be the same. We like patterns. We do not like things to change or shift. And so that's why people have denoted eclipses to be unlucky or bad or whatever, because it's like, societal change. Okay, so great. So the eclipse is not unlucky. Let's talk about Mercury retrograde for a second here. I have done so many talks on Mercury retrograde, I could fill an entire computer with them. A whole hard drive with Mercury retrograde talks and articles. Mercury retrograde is a gift. It's here to slow us down. We live in a fast-paced society Guess what that means? When a planetary object comes in to slow us down, we don't like that. We're like, this isn't on my timeline. My computer's failing. It's not working on my timeline. My car broke down and now I can't get to my meeting. My calendar got switched and now, we whatever, you guys. It's life. It's the human experience. Things happen. Like, Mercury's testing us to be like, okay, how much can you live in flow? And so again, we have kind of this divine feminine energy that's coming through of like, how much can you flow? How much can you just go with the stream of how things are going? I'll tell you what, when I started enjoying slowing down and learning how to slow down in my life and learning how to go with the flow in my life and trusting that the flow is taking me to exactly where I need to go and where I'm meant to go. And I see this with my clients as we work through this stuff all the time. But as I've gotten there in my life, Mercury retrograde cycles have actually become so blissful. Like, I am blissed out with this right now. I am so relieved when Mercury retrograde comes around. I'm just like, oh, thank you. Like, we can slow this down. We can slow down the communication. We can really take our time in this travel space. We can just, like, chill. So I really want to invite you, if you have a tough time with Mercury retrograde, I want to invite you to just try slowing down, adding in more time. Something I've done this Mercury retrograde cycle that's been incredibly helpful for me, and I think I'm going to even incorporate into my daily life, is I've been leaving at least an hour and a half for myself in the morning, with nothing scheduled, and it's literally just like to slowly get out of bed and meditate and move my body and get dressed and really take my time getting dressed, even if I'm like not doing myself up or anything, just like really connecting with me and taking that time. And I've found that through doing that in the morning, and I know not everybody has that luxury, but maybe some other time in the day you can, or maybe you go to bed an hour earlier so that you can wake up an hour earlier. But I've noticed that when I've taken that time to slow down in the morning and really connect with myself then, it actually leaves more room for me throughout the day. So I have been actually on time or early for appointments, which, like, those of you who know me and have worked with me, I am notoriously like right on time or a few minutes, like kind of sauntering in. So yeah, it's been really nice. And I just want to acknowledge that. My sit bones are feeling tired, so I'm just gonna hop down off this here ledge. Let me check into the comments here. Yeah, Georgia says, wow, this message has been coming in for weeks now. Receiving, yes, absolutely. Hi, Esti Kurosi. I don't know who you are, but it's wonderful to have you here. Thanks for being here. If you feel like sharing your name, you're welcome to. You say, yep. You feeling that? And you also say yes and guilty too. Yep. Georgia says she has a tattoo with a 13 inside some mushrooms. Ooh, I love that. Awesome. Very cool. Hi, Rosa. Thanks for being here. Okay. Anything else I want to say about Mercury retrograde? Yes. So I did cover this in the article. I'm going to actually pull up my notes here real quick so that I can reference it. I did cover this in the article, but I do just want to really quickly here state that Mercury in 12-sign astrology is in the sign of Gemini, and as it's going retrograde, it's going to be moving into the sign of Taurus. Again, this is where we have our nodes, right? So that north node, I love this so much. This north node is in Taurus. North node, where we are growing to as individuals and as a society. So we are growing towards this Taurian energy of grounding, building new foundation, really getting into our bodies, embodiment, really getting onto this earth, bringing in those new earth paradigms, my friends. We are growing towards a new earth. That is literally Taurus in the North Node. Like, it's so beautiful. Ah, so beautiful. So with Mercury, which rules over communication, travel, time, space, etc., with Mercury moving through Gemini, which also rules over all of those things, we are working towards, in this slower pace of Mercury retrograde, we are working towards really leaning into our communication, really leaning into where can we slow down and take the time to understand the details that need to be unraveled in our communication tendencies or in conversation in general. I don't really fully understand what you're saying right now, or I would like to let you know how I'm feeling about XYZ. Do you have space for that? Or, just really, really leaning into new language and slowing down and taking our time with communications. So that's a really beautiful energy. And then that leans back into Taurus. And so what's happening is Mercury is doing this beautiful dance with the nodes where it's like, let me lean into this communication and really learn more about it so that we can anchor these new communication paradigms and really grow towards better, more enlightened, more aligned communications. It's amazing. Hey, Becky. Thanks for being here. Let's see. What else? So that's what's happening in 12 sign astrology, and in 13 sign astrology, it's in Taurus already. Mercury is in Taurus, going retrograde already. So again, just with that anchoring of that communication, really moving towards new, beautiful communication paradigms. So it's gorgeous. All right. So let me just check my notes here. I did write notes this time because last time I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on in the sky. Why did I not take notes? Which I've never needed notes before. It's all just channeled through, but my goodness, I forgot so many things. Okay. Oh, yeah, the other thing that I didn't say, I'm just gonna kind of do a little backtrack here, going back to this idea of this lunar eclipse in Scorpio. Pushing pause here, actually. I was on a trajectory. Okay, solar eclipse happened. Sorry, guys. Thanks for bearing with me. Solar eclipse happened. Mercury retrograde happened. Then it was Friday the 13th. Okay, that's what showed up next. And so everybody's like, Friday the 13th. Well, we've already talked about that. We've already talked about why it's actually a really gorgeous energy if we lean into that version of it, right? So unplugging from the matrix, unplugging from the gaslighting, unplugging energetically from these spaces of Friday the 13th is an unlucky, auspicious day, moving into this space of anchoring in the divine feminine and anchoring in the mystery and anchoring in all that we can swim through here. Okay? What was super, super extra beautiful yesterday is that not only was it Friday the 13th, it was also a numerological portal day. If you add together 1 plus 3, 13, 1 plus 3 equals 4, we are in a 5-month, and it is a 6-year. 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 2 is 6. We have 4, 5, 6. Ascending numbers is always pointed towards growth. So again, we have this beautiful growth paradigm. And what this energy is doing is it's really just helping us to lean into this slow growth forward, right? Taurus moves slowly. This solar eclipse that happened 2 weeks ago was in Taurus, in our North Node, in this place we are growing towards. So we really, I'm sure in the last 2 weeks, I know for my life, it's been wild things have happened the last 2 weeks in my life. Great things. Um, Very excited to report that finally. So thanks to those of you who have been rooting for me on that and holding space for me as I've been in the downslope for the last long while. But ebbs and flows. So I'm sure in the last 2 weeks since the eclipse, y'all have been experiencing things around like either your foundations completely breaking and crumbling and leaving you like ah, or having opportunities to build new foundations. And that energy and that trajectory are still moving forward into this lunar eclipse. Okay? So this is your foundation's completely crumbled and disintegrated and you're in a deep dark hole right now. Or you found new foundations and they're coming in and it's beautiful and gorgeous and all of this springing forth and opportunity and blah, blah, blah. Or maybe both. Both could be happening simultaneously too. And are for many people. Like no matter which the case is, what's happening is that the universe gave us that seed, right? And I looked at it like that. I felt it like that. Like that solar eclipse was a seed. Okay? The sun was shrouded in darkness. It was like the moon was like like the dirt coming over a seed. The seed being the light of the sun, and the moon is coming over it and it's covering it in the darkness, and it's like from that the sun could then just burst forth and bring more lights, bring magic, bring growth. And that's where we're at. Yeah. And then Mercury decided to slow down. It's like slowing its roll, and it's like, yeah, so let's talk through this, right? Let's talk through this in Gemini. Let's talk through this. And then it's like, yeah, and let's talk through this in a way that really helps us to grow and helps that seed, helps that sunshine seed to just sprout even more light into the world. Unbreakable spirit, thanks for being here. Good to see you. So it's like that happened. And then this divine feminine energy anchoring in yesterday with Friday the 13th. And also then that 4, 5, 6 portal days. So we're coming into this growth. There's so much growth, momentum that's happening here. And then this full moon eclipse is coming. Okay, and the full moon eclipse is going to look in this way of either or both. Either everything crumbles, right? I talked in the beginning about expansion and contraction and how these two things go together and we need them together. They work together. So if you've been in an expansion place for the last 2 weeks, it's very possible that this full moon is going to be the start of the contraction, right? Where you've been growing and growing and growing, it might be time to like pull in. And that might look like life making that happen to you if you aren't taking the time to rest. Okay, so I just really want to suggest that with this full moon. I suggest it always, but I really want to suggest with this full moon eclipse, if you've been in a state of expansion, really take the time to breathe, to rest, to take care of yourself, to go within. Scorpio is so much about diving deep and diving in. And a lot of the time that looks like shadow work. A lot of the time it gets confused that it should be shadow work, but really you're just overworking yourself. I know this really well. Remember, triple Scorpio over here. So be honest with yourself. And I wrote this in the article too. Be honest with yourself. In this time of contraction, is it a moment where you're actually needing to lean into that shadow work and really follow that and really do that and come into that type of contraction? Or is it a space where you're needing to contract in the way of just maybe cocooning for a moment, yeah, and just appreciating your space, appreciating you and your you-ness, and or maybe being with really tight-knit close family and friends or whatever, people who might bring joy into your life and just really nourish you. So yeah. Let's see what else. So there's that. There's all of that. I do want to step into speaking, I was going to speak. I said I was going to backtrack for a moment, and I'm going to hit that now. I want to backtrack to this talk about sex and sex drive and all of that stuff coming up with this full moon eclipse in Scorpio. The other thing that could potentially be coming up, um, if you have experienced a sexual trauma or several, it's possible that stuff could be coming up for you right now to look at or to weed through or to strip away, to move through. Of course, I want to recommend highly that if you're doing that kind of work, you do it with somebody um, who is holding space for you, whatever that might look like, and maybe even a licensed clinician who focuses on trauma. Um, but yeah, I did just want to kind of throw that in there, that stuff might be coming up, and that might be affecting your sex drive in other ways as well. So, excuse me. So just bringing that up and around as well. Let's see. We've got Georgie says my mom's a triple Scorpio. Oh, that's lovely. Ah, it's so good to meet kindred spirits. I always love meeting other triples, especially triple Scorpios. It's always fun. And SD Kurosi says that would explain my dream from last night. Yeah, for sure, for sure. And we've got a lot going on in dream space right now too, which I'll talk about shortly here as well. Blah 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 blah. So yeah, a lot of death and rebirth coming with this, and I haven't talked about that element of Scorpio just yet. But Scorpio rules over death, birth, rebirth, transition, transformation, not transmutation, but transformation, and really going from one stage of life into the next. And so remember how I said society and human beings don't like change? Yeah, well, that's a lot of the reason also why people don't like the Scorpio energy or are afraid of it or whatever, because it brings about big, big change. And usually in areas that are super uncomfortable for us, where we're like, I don't want to face this dark shadow. But shoot, I have to transform it and I have to rebirth it and I have to birth myself through this painful, painful thing. So a lot of that stuff might be coming up as well. So I wanted to speak to that. And now I definitely want to move into the 13 sign astrology that's happening here. So in 13 sign astrology, we have this full moon and lunar eclipse happening in Libra. Okay, so our lunar nodes in 13 sign astrology are in Libra. Libra is the south node, so what we are growing out of, growing away from. And Aries is our north node, so that's what we're growing towards. With Aries being our north node, we are growing towards magic. We are growing towards new beginnings. We are growing towards creativity. We are growing towards beginning to build new things, like really just working with our hands and just like let's build the thing. This pairs really well with this 12 sign system, North Node and Taurus, because we've got all of this beautiful fire Aries energy that's coming in that's like, yes, we're growing towards this newness, we're growing towards this magic and this enlightenment and this blah 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 blah. And then Taurus is like, great, let's take all of that ecstatic energy and like really anchor it in. And Aries is like, cool, I can work with that, let's build something. Right? Let's really work with our hands and make something tangible and build something. And Taurus is like, yeah, foundation, sweet, let's do it. So it's this the in between, the middle space, and this is why I love doing 12 and 13 sign astrology, because that middle between the two is so sweet and epic, and they always just complement each other so well. So that's what's up with our north node. Our south node, so where we're going to find this eclipse, is in Libra. So what we are growing away from is judgment, imbalance, moments where maybe we think we're super balanced or we appear to be super balanced and maybe we're not. Standard beauty standards and definitions. What is beauty supposed to look like? Growing away from old paradigms around sexualizing people and overt flirtation in a way that is solely based in sex, that isn't intentional, or intentional in a way that is in service to the self or to other or to humanity. So we've got all of that that's coming up with this full moon too, with that 13 sign stuff. And if we take that and we mix it with that 12 sign system, with that Scorpio stuff, specifically what I want to highlight here is sex addiction. With Libra, a lot of addiction and addictive tendencies comes out. Right? We see this because Libra is the sign that rules balance and extremes. So if you have an imbalanced Libra energy, you might be somebody who is tending towards addiction. And with Scorpio, we've got that major sexual energy. And because we're doing so much transmutation in the collective around sex and sexuality right now, what we could see coming up and being highlighted with this full moon is sex addiction. And where might we be experiencing that or expressing that or recognizing that within ourselves? So all of that's going on, but also the complete opposite, right? So we might see, where have we been completely shutting ourselves off from that part of ourselves? So those things are important to look at. But specifically also addiction in general. And this is something I wanted to speak to in the 13 sign system. So 2 weeks ago, I spoke to the fact that we had what's called a Piscean stellium. You guys can find the replay on YouTube. I go into a whole explanation of it. But basically, it's where there are 3 or more sky objects in a stellium. There are 3 or more sky objects in a single portion of the sky. So a single sign or a single house. 2 weeks ago, we had a Piscean stellium in both 13 sign and 12 sign astrology. As of the 10th, that shifted. We no longer have a Piscean stellium in 12 sign astrology because Jupiter has moved into Aries, which I'm going to speak to as well. This is about to be a long live, y'all. When are they not with me though? Because jam-packed, right? So I'm like, Spirit, can we do shorter ones, please? Like what? But nope, it's like 1 transmission now. Okay, fine, whatever. I listen, I'll do. So Jupiter moved into Aries, so that took that out for the 12 sign system. However, in 13 sign astrology, we do still have a Piscean stellium. We have, let me look at my notes here. We have Venus, Jupiter, Neptune, and Mars all showing up in the sign of Pisces in 13 sign or sidereal astrology. I spoke to all of this last time because I believe those were all the same planets that were there 2 weeks ago. But basically, in a nutshell, Pisces is going to bring up also addiction, right? Because it's the space of the in-between. It's the space that rules the unconscious and psychic world and et cetera, so on and so forth. And also the subconscious mind and things we might be running away from, and illusions and delusions and etc. So with that energy, with this full moon in Libra and eclipse in Libra, those 2 things are going to be playing off of each other too, right? We're going to be having like epiphanies and epic moments where we're realizing where we might be following false light, or where we might be falling into addiction, or where we might have been in addiction already, and we're like, oh shoot, I've got a problem. I got to step past this. I've got to step out of this. If y'all need help, I know some really fantastic addiction counselors in the Grand Rapids area. So if you're in Michigan, they can service you anywhere in Michigan. Unfortunately, I don't really know anybody anywhere else that I can refer you to, but here, for sure I do. So, let me see, what else am I missing? So there's that, but not only around addiction, it's also just the blinders coming off in general. And this is where specifically, with that North Node in Aries, we're growing towards magic. We're growing towards specifically the magic of newness, right? So where might we have been caught up? And this is going to be coming up for the next 18 months, y'all. Same thing with that Scorpio Taurus node stuff in the 12 sign. But this Libra Aries node stuff is going to be coming up for the next 18 months as well. And Aries is actually also Cetus, which I didn't write about in this article, but I did speak about 2 weeks ago on the live, so you can go check that out. Where was I at? Yes, so growing towards that light, growing towards that truth, going towards that newness, that spark of Aries. And with Aries, it's so much about like this newness, right? I think about like the newness of the growth of the springtime that we're experiencing. And so it's like that where we're recognizing like there's magic all around us, you guys. Where might we be chasing magic instead of allowing magic to be there and being open to that magic, which again then brings us right back around to that 12 sign south node in Scorpio, where our moon appears in 12 sign astrology tomorrow or 2 days from now, depending on where you're at. It wraps back around to that in terms of, you know, where have we not been allowing ourselves to receive? Where have we been chasing, right? Where have we been chasing instead of opening or being and allowing ourselves to just be and recognize the magic within us and without us that's innately there. So lots of false light paradigms are going to be shedding because of that Aries North node and because of that Piscean stellium that's happening at the same time. So that's our 12 and 13 sign stuff that's going on simultaneously. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything here. And also I want to check back on Facebook here and make sure there are no comments that I'm missing. Okay, cool. All right, let me check my notes here. And also I'm going to check my comments here with you guys. Oh, good. I'm so glad this is resonating with you guys. It's awesome. Very good to hear. SD Kurosi says, oh yes, big topic for me, no longer chasing anything, embodying happiness, health, and peace. Heck yes. Thank you for doing that for yourself and for others. As we begin to do that work on ourselves and with ourselves, we become an example and others begin to pick up on those codes from us. So it's so important. So important. Yes. Oh yeah, also with that Aries North node, where do we need to integrate more magic into our lives, right? Like where are we not allowing ourselves to experience magic in general? So there's also that. And also, y'all, so I talked about this moon in Scorpio in the 12 sign system. Really, maybe like if you're somebody who's really healthfully connected to your sexual energy, like this could really just spark that and it'd be beautiful and gorgeous. And we see that with in 13 sign, that North node in Aries really playing on that too, because there could be just the fiery passion energy. So yeah, that could be there too. So that's also fun. Something I wanted to speak to. So on point with this. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. I'm so glad to hear that. Okay, what do I want to talk about next? Yeah, so in terms of y'all, I don't normally say this kind of thing, but Spirit was really, really guiding me here. If you're somebody who's getting into astrology or you're deep in astrology already, I really want to encourage you to check out your own chart and see where this moon might be playing with you, right? Where might it be highlighting different parts of your being? So definitely, if you're looking at your 12 sign chart, check out where Taurus is showing up, what house is Taurus in. Check out where Scorpio is showing up, what house Scorpio is in, or houses. And check out if there are any sky objects that are there. This full moon and eclipse, and specifically the next 18 months of these lunar nodes in Taurus and Scorpio, are going to be deeply affecting folks who have a lot of heavy energy in those spaces in their chart. So for instance, yes, I am feeling this. Whoa. Whoa. Four sky objects in my ascendant. I am feeling this, and it's great. But I'm able to say it's great because I've done a lot of work on these areas already. And so it's like, okay, I've come, and that's not to say I'm done by any means. There's always so much more work to do. And watch, every time I say something like that, the universe is like, yeah, you sure about that, Rachel? We're going to test you. I'm really I want to take a moment and just denounce any tests at this point in time because I can't handle it. I don't want it. I'm not calling that in. I'm just like grateful to be at this point. Hey, Amber Rose, thanks for being here. And Doug's here too. Hey. So yeah. You know, if you're somebody who has heavy energies in those spaces of your chart in Scorpio or in Taurus, you're really going to be feeling these eclipses, and it might not be pretty, and that's okay. Because what it's doing is, again, right, humans don't like change, we like patterns, blah, 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 but this Taurus North Node is asking us to grow. It's asking us to grow. And it's honestly like a really gentle, beautiful energy of growth. It's like, yeah, we're going to hold you through this. Just like, grow. It's a slow grow. It's a slow grow. You got this, right? And Scorpio's in the background like, all right, we done. We're just going to shed this shit. We're done. It can go away, right? That Scorpio energy might come in really strong for you. And if you're not doing the work to really look at, okay, I gotta let this go, and how do I do it? And you're really trying to like grip on tight to things, that's where you might be, in the ring, trying to punch the punching bag of the universe as it throws you lessons, and you're like, stop trying to pry this thing from my hands, and it's like, but it's time to let go, and you're like, no, and then it's like, all right, I'm gonna keep beating you up then until you can learn this. Like, yeah. Let's see what's coming up here on Instagram. Doug says, my moon is in Scorpio in the 8th house. Oh, that's so potent. I love that because that's actually where Scorpio lives, so to speak. The 8th house rules over Scorpio. So that's extra for you on that. That's really neat. And yeah, same. No test for you. Okay, we can call that into no test for you. It's been rough for this Taurus. Yeah, I hear you. Fully hear you. LOL, yeah, no fighting for me. Let it fly. Yeah, we can call in that lightness. And that's what I was speaking to earlier, right? Do we need to do the shadow work, or have we been bogged down in shadow work? And the shadow work would actually be like bringing us to this place where we are hindering ourselves rather than helping ourselves, right? So where are you going down the rabbit hole in a way that's just not necessary? But then also acknowledging where maybe you've been avoiding your shadows, and maybe it's time to do the shadow work. It sounds like for you, SD, you might be in a place where you've had enough of the shadow stuff. That said, you're saying no test for me. Well, my question for you is, have you been given the tests but not learning the lessons, right? So the universe is going to keep throwing tests at us until we learn the lessons. So which means doing the shadow work to understand, oh, this is where this comes from. Oh, this is where this comes from. And the more that we really like sink into our shadows and do that work, the more that then clears the way. And we're more in alignment, and we're more refined to ourselves, and the truth of our being. But like I said, it's a balance. And again, with that Libra, right? If we're looking at that 13th sign astrology, with that Libra South node, where are we out of balance? Where are we out of whack? Where are we focusing too much on shadow work or not enough on shadow work? And how can we find a balance so that we're doing both, and we're not like completely obliterating ourselves in one direction or the other, and we can actually experience peace and joy in our lives. True, yes, until we get it, the test will keep coming. Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Just looking at my notes here again, making sure that I didn't miss anything. Oh, you know what I do want to say, and then I'll head over to the Jupiter and Aries aspect here. But what I do want to say is, I finally did it, y'all. I've been offering these astrology for mental health sessions for a while now. I had one yesterday that was just gorgeous, actually. Very grateful. And this morning, Spirit was like, great, now it's time to put it on your website. And I'm like, oh, thank you, finally. Because people kept like emailing me and asking me and like, what, like, where do I find this? How do, whatever. But then like, just not, look, I don't know. It was weird. And I know there wasn't really the space and room in my life for it fully, and I feel like there is now, and I'm so excited for it. So if you are somebody who you want to know more about your chart, whether that's your 12 sign chart or your 13 sign chart, yes, I am reading those now, which I'm super excited and grateful for. Again, huge shout out to Sam Lauer, find me _ in the stars. I love you, Sam, so much. She has taught me so much about 13 sign astrology, and I've been also learning it elsewhere, just kind of various sources here and there. And she sent me this packet, y'all, that is so epic. So also, if you're wanting to, I'm just like hugely plugging her right now. She did not ask me to do this, but it has changed my life so much to receive this. She created a 13 sign chart calculator. So if you are somebody who has no idea how to do 13 sign astrology, and you want to learn, definitely go check that out. And it's on her Patreon. So if you're on Instagram at @findme _ in the stars, the link in her bio will direct you to her Patreon, and you will, I believe you'll get that PDF with, PDF packet with that. And you'll be able to see like, oh, okay. And it gives you a context. Cause you can scroll down, you can be like, oh, okay. So when the sun is in Aries in, 12 sign astrology, it's actually in Pisces, and you can see like the actual degrees and like where those things differ and etc. So yeah, we've got some plugs for Sam here. Sam is the shit. Sam is life changing, literally, for sure. I am on that same page. She's a wonderful human. So yeah, I'm doing 12 and 13 sign astrology readings. You can find that on my website to be able to book, doorwaytoself.com. And you just click on the offerings tab. There's actually like a gold bar across the website right now that you can just click there, and it'll take you right to the booking page. And you can learn more about what's presented there. But the way that I read astrology is very much like I'm reading the story of you. Like I'm reading you as a storybook to yourself, and like, this is why you are XYZ, and a lot of the time you present yourself and blah 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 blah. And so as you move through your childhood and into your teenage years and into your blah blah blah, and I tell you the story of your life. And I just love it. And I love specifically seeing folks, just as I've experienced and continue to experience looking at my charts. I love to witness folks be like, oh, wait, there's like an actual reason why I'm that way. What? So yeah, I just want to throw that out there. I'm excited to work with y'all if you decide to, and we can also obviously take a look at your chart and see where these nodes are showing up right now and what your next 18 months of lesson learning might look like. Yeah, that is so cool. Like listening to your own story. Love it. Yeah, for sure. I hope to see you soon. That would be fun. That'd be really fun. It's just, and it's so healing. It's like, so much of like my stuff with my own, the reason why I call it astrology for mental health is like so much of my own mental health healing has come from that, and recognizing like, oh, okay, I have all of these sky objects in Scorpio. I have all of these sky objects here. I have all of these things that are going on here and here and here. And it's like, oh, okay, so this would actually look like symptoms of bipolar when I was 19 or 20. Oh, okay, this would actually look like people placing mental illness on me and gaslighting me and etc. When I became mentally healthy. So yeah, it's just super healing, and I can't recommend it enough. It's so healing. It's so helpful. So doorwaytoself.com. Click on offerings or that gold bar at the top, and you'll figure it out. Oh, well, yeah, real astrology explains so much. It never ceases to amaze me. Me too. Me too. And I have been studying my 12 sign chart since I was 11 years old. And I am constantly still finding new things. Because it's endless. It really is. There are always new things to learn, and they always show up right when you're ready to find them. Okay, so there's all of that. I'm going to move into this Jupiter entering Aries deal. And then we'll close out. This is long. Okay. So in the 12 sign system, in 12 sign astrology, Jupiter, the planet which rules over bigness, abundance, wealth, career, divine masculine, but in this way of like the king, like the father figure king. Like, yeah, it's really great, fun energy. Jupiter is, wealth, money, etc. So Jupiter moved into the sign of Aries. We've talked about Aries a lot, in 12 sign astrology on the 10th, which was actually the same day that Mercury went retrograde. So we've had a lot of planetary, like, whoa, happening. And especially because if you listen to the video from 2 weeks ago, you'll note that Jupiter and Venus met together in the sky. And so now Jupiter's kind of moving forward into Aries with that trajectory as well. So this is really important on several levels. Firstly, Jupiter moving into Aries breaks that Piscean stellium in the 12 sign system that I was talking about, right? So there are now no longer 3 sky objects in the sign of Pisces in the 12 sign system. And so because of that, we've gotten like a little bit of a break-ish from that Pisces energy, although it's still strong, because actually if you look at the actual sky, there's still a stellium there with 4 planets. So that's what's happening. But so it's breaking that stellium, which is significant. It also is carrying with it the energy from that stellium and from the meeting with Venus into Aries. So Aries being the first sign of the zodiac, Aries being the first entry into the world, right? Pisces is this place of like the amorphous void. It is the birth canal. It's this place of like, you aren't here yet, but you aren't not here yet, right? So you're like being birthed-ish. And so whatever was going on in Pisces is what then gets funneled through into the newness, into Aries. So whatever is coming into Aries, that's what's being brought. And so because we had this Jupiter-Venus conjunction only 10 days or 12 days before Jupiter moved into Aries, it is really bringing that divine feminine energy with it. And Pisces already has, it is the divine feminine. It is the divine feminine. And so is Venus. And so to have all of that energy like being birthed through, and only 3 days before Friday the 13th, that's also super significant. And just like, once again, we are growing towards this divine feminine energy. And that directly correlates and matches with that North Node in Taurus. Also, Taurus being very connected with Venus, and Venusian energy. And so again, we are moving upwards towards this divine feminine energy, really pulling these paradigms into the new Earth, and specifically with Jupiter being a sky object that represents the divine masculine. It's like, yes, the divine masculine is being birthed through divine feminine energy into this new Earth. What? You cannot make this stuff up, you guys. You cannot do it. You can't do it. Hey, Rachel. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. SD says, until about 8 years ago, I didn't even know charts are a thing. Boy, was I missing out. Yeah, I mean, like I said, triple Scorpio over here. I was all up on that stuff from like age 7. So yeah, you're all good. I'm not normal folk. Most people I read for have never seen their chart before, actually, which is so fun for me. I love that so much. So you are not alone. Okay, so yeah. Okay, here's the other really cool bit about this. Again, you can't make this stuff up, you guys. So Jupiter normally, because it's farther out from the sun, Jupiter normally takes a longer time, not the longest time by any means, but a longer time to circle through the zodiac. So on average, Jupiter usually moves signs once a year, no more than once a year. This year is different. This year, Jupiter moved into Pisces in December of last year, okay? And it moved into Aries 4 days ago. So only 5 months into the year, it's moving into a new sign. That is very rare, and bizarre. Reason being, Pisces is shorter than the other signs. So it's faster to move through. But, yeah, so what's happening actually is Jupiter's moving out of Pisces, or moved out of Pisces and into Aries. And then it's going to go retrograde in July, I think. I didn't write that down, but I'm pretty sure in July. So Jupiter is going to go retrograde in July. It is going to move back into Pisces during that retrograde cycle, but not until the end of October. And then it comes back into Aries after it goes direct. I want to say November or December, but sometime this year. Okay? So we have this motion. It's so cool. We literally are birthing ourselves and birthing our divine masculine coding, our wealth codes, our abundance codes, our career trajectories. We are rebirthing these things over and over this year. Okay, so this is the first time, right? We came out of Pisces with this beautiful divine feminine energy, with the stellium, with that Venus-Jupiter conjunction. We're like, yeah, we are birthing these abundance codes, these wealth codes. Many of you in the last week or two may have experienced like sums of money coming in, or abundance in other ways, maybe like a free vacation, or people have been giving you gifts, or you know, get a ride from a friend so you don't have to drive your own car and use your own gas, or whatever. Abundance comes in all of these different ways, in terms of like where money is concerned, but also abundance in terms of like, if you're in the northern hemisphere, look outside, y'all. Like, all of these plants are growing and it's beautiful. There's so much lush that's coming in, and so we're experiencing this. We're experiencing that energy. So we're coming into this birth of new wealth paradigms, new abundance paradigms, all of these new codes. And then when Jupiter goes retrograde, it's going to be like, okay, well, actually, no, before I get there. So we come in with all of these paradigms, all of these codes. Then we hit this Scorpio full moon lunar eclipse tomorrow or the next day, depending on where you're at. And Scorpio, like I said, has a problem receiving a lot of the time. So it's like, we get all of these codes, we're like, yes, wealth, abundance. And then we're like, can I receive this? I don't know if I can receive this. I don't know what this is like. So this moon might be a challenge for you. This might be like one of those moments of contraction, right, that you're experiencing. So how can you allow yourself to like maybe slowly receive? Maybe slowly open up to receiving. It doesn't have to happen all at once, right? Again, with that Libra paradigm, if we're looking at that 13 sign stuff, right? Where can we find balance? Where we're not just like overloading ourselves. We're just like, receive. I have to learn how to receive. Like, you can receive a little bit at a time. That's okay. It's all good. You're cool. Don't worry about it. Okay, so that's going down. Then in July, we have Jupiter going retrograde, and it moves. So it was like, okay, this was the birth. We learned a lot, and now we're going to contract. We're going to go back into the womb, right? We're going to go retrograde. We're going to move backwards, but we're going to move backwards in this process where we're like still birthed. Like we're not ready to go back into the womb yet, not until the end of October, right? So even from this period from like the end of July through the end of October, that's a chunk, right? That's months. Where we're going to be maybe like a little uncomfortable with our abundance mindsets, and just like really playing with what's comfortable to receive, what's uncomfortable to receive. Where do we feel like we can't afford things, and we're playing into that story rather than allowing the universe to just have things show up if they're meant to be. Of course, if we're working towards them, right? Nothing's just going to show up out of thin air. But if you're doing the work, it'll come. And believe you me, I've got stories of that from this week. Like, there are some cool things. If you have not listened to my podcast yet on the energy of money, I highly suggest going and doing that. You can find that if you're on Instagram. The link is in my bio to listen to the podcast. If you're on Facebook, you can head to or either place. You can head to iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, whatever, Anchor. It's on all of those places. It's also on my website. But I highly recommend listening to that episode between now and July at some point, because I think it's really going to prepare y'all. So all of that's going down, and then end of October, it's like, yeah, we didn't fully learn that bit about receiving. We didn't fully learn that bit about trusting. We didn't fully learn that bit about allowing. We didn't fully learn that bit about like holding it all, where we're in the allness and the nothingness at the same time. And so we're going to move back into the womb. We're going to move back into this Pisces energy, and we're going to stay there. We're going to stay there, and we're going to keep contracting until we move forward and out of retrograde motion. We move back direct, and then we can kind of slowly move ourselves back down the birth canal and rebirth ourselves into Aries towards the end of the year. So it's, and hopefully with like all new abundance codes again, right? Or even deeper, or even more, even, just like anchored in, more solid, more accepting. So it's really this expansion and contraction piece that's happening once again. It just keeps coming up this whole video. It's such a theme right now. It's such a theme for this year in specific. It's so freaking beautiful. I want to speak more to this because there's even more. But let me see what's happening here. Do you recommend always, this is, Georgie says, do you recommend always comparing the two charts, or are we moving into just 13? So I definitely recommend comparing. If you're new to astrology and you've never seen your chart before, I would highly recommend getting a session that's focused on your 12 sign chart, and then a session that's focused on your 13 sign chart. And then if you want a third session, that would be focused on the merge of the two and where those two spaces meet. I find that doing both charts in a single session can be very overwhelming for people who have never seen their 12 sign chart before, or their 13 sign. So like one or the other, right? But if you have seen your chart and you're semi-familiar with it, or at least familiar enough, then yeah, I would totally recommend doing a session where you're merging both. Because that would be, it's so, and yeah, I think both perspectives are necessary, right? We are somewhere in the middle, because what's happening is 13 sign astrology is the truth of our skies. It's what's happening in our skies. But because our collective, our hive mind, is still so integrated into the 12 sign system, where the planets and stars really aren't even showing up anymore, that energy, because our collective is so ingrained into the collective, that energy is still existent. It's still present. And our collective is basically creating it. Right? It's a thought form. It's a collective thought form. It's really brilliant psychic technology, honestly. It's like, when I think about how it works, it's just insane to me. So I do find that both systems in tandem are really helpful to have, because it's like the truth from one side, the truth from the other, and then like where can we find that middle? So yeah, I hope that helps, Georgie. Om Shanti Shanti, thanks for being here. SD says, I was into astrology just growing up in a small German village. I never became aware of this awesomeness. I would have been all over it had I known. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I grew up in LA, so it's a little bit different. And yes, everything is coming together magically, beautifully. Yes, absolutely. Georgie says, I love this live so much. Yay, finally. I know, I'm so happy you're here. It's so wonderful to have you here. SG says, yeah, I second this super yay. Oh, you guys are so sweet. Thank you. Infamous MK, good to see you. Thanks for being here. SG says, yes, effortlessly easing into receiving. Absolutely. Georgie, yeah, cool. I know 12, but not 13. 13 really interests me. Yeah, for sure. And you say thanks, and wow, I haven't even thought about it like that. Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you who don't know Georgie, she's amazing. Cosmic Heart Space. She does some pretty epic light language channeling, and through word and song and drawing or graphics. So definitely check out her stuff. I share it quite a bit on my story too. So, so back to this epic Jupiter and Aries / Pisces integration dynamic thing that's happening here. It's so wild. And I haven't even looked at the 13 sign version of this, because it's just like, this is so overwhelming for me in and of itself. I'm like, there's so much happening here. So I don't have that to share with you guys. So I apologize for that. Listen to me. I apologize for that. This live is already like over an hour. But, all right. So let's look at this. So here's the magic, you guys. All of this is magic, but this is really, really, really freaking cool. You cannot make it up. You can't make it up. So Jupiter's entered Aries on the 10th. Our lunar eclipse in Scorpio occurs on the 15th or 16th, depending on where you are. So 5 to 6 days before the eclipse, Jupiter entered Aries. Okay. When we get to the end of October, right? So Jupiter moves retrograde end of July. End of October is when it's gone backwards enough in Aries that it will be able to slide back into Pisces. When does that happen, you guys? It happens 3 days after the solar eclipse in Scorpio. So, of the 2 Scorpio eclipses we have this year, Jupiter moves into Aries 5 days before the first one and stays there until 3 days after the second one. I.e., there is something here, y'all. There is something here for this collective to experience in terms of really anchoring in these abundance codes and coming into this space of wealth while we are shedding our stuff about receiving with these Scorpio eclipses. That's cool. I mean, I'd like to say, what are the chances of that? But astrology is not about chances. It's all very astrophysically calculated. But for real, though, like, the sky does not lie. It can't make this stuff up. It really is. It's a map. And it's like, here you go. Here you go. Here's this gift. We are aligning ourselves in exactly this way so that the collective can grow. And it's just so amazing. So, I'm gonna look and see what comments we've got. Nothing on Facebook, so that's cool. And let's see. Oh, you're welcome, Georgie. Of course. Thank you for your work in the world. Sabir, good to see you. I'm not going to accept your request to come into this video at this time, but thank you so much for your interest. All right, we've got some good conversation going on between folks here. I love that soul families connecting on here, so it's great. Mesmerized. Awesome. Cool. Well, I think, according to my notes, that's what I have for y'all. So, if all of this has like mesmerized you to the point where you're like, I want to know how this is affecting me personally, please go to doorwaytoself.com, click on the yellow bar at the top, or if you're on Facebook, the link is right on this video. If you're on Instagram, the link is in my bio, and you can set up a session to work with me, and we can look over your chart or both charts and check it out and see where this eclipse or the next eclipses or the Jupiter stuff or whatever might be affecting you and how, or we can just look at you and your story, and who you are, and affirm you. Yeah. I'm getting excited. All right. That's all, y'all. I love you so much. I'm so grateful to all of you who are here, who came on, whether it's live right now or watching the replay. This replay will be available on YouTube as well, so you can find that probably in the next couple of days here if you need it. But it's, of course, available on Instagram and Facebook already. It'll just post. But that's all. I love you guys, and I wish you the most insightful and illuminating and beautiful full moon and eclipse. Yeah. Wow, over an hour flew by as if it was 10 minutes. Yeah, that's that's kind of how things roll with me a little bit. I bend that space-time continuum constantly. So why me and Mercury retrograde get along really well nowadays. Georgie says this has been a real treat. I agree. I'm so glad you could be here. Thank you. All right, everybody, take care. Bye for now.